Hey everybody, it's Heather Vickery. Welcome to the latest episode of the Brave Files podcast. So I'm curious, what do you think the bravest thing is that you've ever done? That's a big question, right? I'd love to hear. Can you send me a message? You can leave a voice message via the website, vickeryandco.com. Send me a text message if you have my phone number, or a message on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, anywhere. What's the bravest thing that you have ever done in your mind? Well, my friend Tom Mitchell, who was a guest on the show for episode 39 called Still Brave, has done so many things that everyone else considers to be extraordinarily brave. And Tom just thinks they're, well, part of the commitment he made to his daughter when she was dying at the age of 16. One of those things is to always fight for children with cancer. He is never going to give up. He has dedicated every moment of his life to supporting children with cancer and helping to fight to eradicate childhood cancer. And one of the ways he's doing that is something that I personally think is pretty darn brave. He is doing the Bigfoot 4 race, which is 206.5 miles up Mount St. Helen. It's grueling and excruciating and exhausting, and Tom loves it. He loves it because he has an opportunity to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars to support children with cancer. The Brave Files podcast is honored and proud to be the sponsor of Mile 139. You see, every single one of these miles is dedicated to a child who has either lost their battle with cancer, is currently fighting cancer, or in remission. And this mile, Mile 139, is for a young girl named Daphne, who lost her life at the age of 7, which is just unthinkable as a parent. We want to help support Tom as much as possible, and in order to do that, I need your help. So head on over to the links. You'll find the links in our show notes and the episode liners. It's linked all over Instagram, Facebook, everywhere you can imagine looking. You'll find the links, and we need you to go right now. Please put the podcast on pause. I do want you to listen, but put it on pause and go and support us to the best of your ability. Even $5 makes a tremendous difference. We want to follow through on our commitment here, and we cannot do it without you. This race starts tomorrow, August 9th. Can you believe that? Starting tomorrow, and it's going to last until the 13th. That's a lot of days of excruciating pain and commitment running up Mount St. Helen for Tom. And we want to show as much love and support for him as we possibly can. Thank you so much for being a wonderful listener, a fan, a confidant, a friend, a supporter, all of those things that you are. We're grateful for that. Okay, now here's what you came for. Here's this week's episode.
Vulnerable, bold, and grateful.
You are listening to The Brave Files, real stories from people living courageously. You can listen to the show anywhere you enjoy podcasts, and we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give a review on Apple Podcasts. It really does make a difference, and we appreciate it. Now here's your host, Heather Vickery.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Brave Files. This is a podcast about the human experiment of choosing bravely. Each week, we share stories of incredible, everyday people, just like you and me, who choose to live bravely in every aspect of their life. This is Heather Vickery, and I am delighted to be here with you today. Okay, friends, today's guest is Emily Klein. Emily is the founder of a company called Live a Joyful Life. Who doesn't want to be part of that? That sounds amazing to me. She's an author, a positivity expert, and a life coach. Emily says that she works with perfect women masquerading as imperfect wives, moms, and maybe not so good little sisters. She helps her clients lean into, move through, and release shame, fear, and unworthiness that prevents them from living fully. But Emily has quite an extraordinary story on her own about her journey to living fully. So Emily, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
I am as well. We have been trying to get this on the calendar for a long time, so I'm excited to share your story with our listeners and get to know you a little bit better. So thanks. All right. So before we get too far into the details, I'd love for you to sort of, in a nutshell, give us a little bit of your personal background. What is your story, and how did you end up in this space, both personally and professionally?
You know, it's such an interesting question because before I really thought about it, I thought I had a different story.
I love that.
Yeah. It's funny when you when someone actually asks you that question. You've been telling the same story for years. And the truth is, that wasn't my story. I grew up in a upper middle class home. We had a beautiful house. We had a pool. We had a tennis court. We had 8 bedrooms. And from the outside, everything looked so good. But honestly, my parents did the best that they could. So I don't fault them. And as a mom, I get it now.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, but someone always had one foot out the door. My parents did not have a good relationship.
Okay.
It was almost like they were more out for themselves than for the other one. And clearly also they were out for us, which is why they stayed together for so long.
Yeah, I don't tend to think that works so well.
No, it really doesn't. And so oddly, not oddly, actually, ironically, everything I learned about being a wife and a mother, I learned from my mom. My mom is a great mom, but in some ways she was a great wife. Like we had delicious food and everything, sort of ran smoothly, but the relationship between them wasn't good. And in my own relationship, I wasn't the most generous listener either.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Anybody who's listened to me tell my story on other people's podcasts or anything I've written, my main motivation for finally pushing through and getting out of my marriage was what sort of model did I want to be for my kids? And I love that you said you learned how to be a wife and mother from your mom, and maybe it wasn't exactly the kind of wife and mother you wanted to be.
No. And in fact, I called my soon-to-be ex, I don't know when, it was a couple of months ago. And I said, I realized that everything I learned about being a wife and mother, I learned from my mother. And I said, and I just wanted to apologize for not being a great wife.
How did he react to that?
He was like, he was shocked. Like,
yeah, it was a big deal, I think, to call and apologize like that. I think that means a lot.
Well, I think it did. And I'm a firm believer of radical responsibility.
I love that. Radical responsibility. So I know what that means to me when I hear it, but can you tell everyone what it means for you when you say it?
What it means for me when I say it is that taking ownership of what happened and really everything. It's a way to go from victim to victor. And when you take responsibility, you take accountability, and then you have all the power.
Yes. Yes. I love that. That is how, but when you take responsibility, you have the power. I cannot tell you, I spend most of my time working with folks on just that thing. There's always something you can change and do differently. And when you choose that, you have the power.
Yes.
I love
Amen.
that.
Thank you. I love it too.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So your parents weren't the greatest role models. And yet,
it's funny because one thing that I did grow up with was my mom is this amazing cook. And so I grew up sort of helping her in the kitchen. There was always something bubbling away on the stove. And the first thing I did after I sort of had an early midlife crisis and went to culinary school. And
that's not so bad, is it?
No, it was great. But there's something about something bubbling away on the stove, or being able to just open the pantry or open the fridge, and regardless of what's in there, create something magical. And so the kitchen is sanctuary to me.
Yeah.
And at some point, I sort of veered away from that. I never veer completely away, but I veered away from that in terms of the work that I do by title. Even though there's still food involved. And the reason for that is I think at some point, like, the food didn't save us. Like it wasn't enough.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I do believe that every meal that you cook is a love letter to the people that you prepare it for. I have this memory of my mom and we got in this big fight. And all of a sudden she's like, she just interrupts like mid-fight. And she said, I made dinner. And I was like, oh, so like we just stopped and we sat down.
Like it will cure things. Let's just eat.
In some way. And as I'm in the tenderness of the potatoes and the sweetness of the carrots, like I could taste how much my mother loved me or loves me. And
I mean, I think a lot of people show their love with food. It takes a lot of effort. I mean, it doesn't have to, it doesn't always, but feeding your family is a sign of love.
Yes. And caring for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's self-care, it's self-love, it's love for others. It's like the easiest form of self-care. And it's also the easiest form of self-medication. So, you do have to draw attention to that sometimes.
Well, you're totally right about that. My dad, who's a great guy, had a really big issue with his weight for many years. He still sort of does, but much better than it used to be. And we talked, I don't know, it's probably been 20 years ago now, about the fact that food was the answer to everything when he was growing up. Oh, something really great happened. Let's have ice cream. Oh, something really bad happened. Let's have ice cream. And I have had to try, and I'm not always successful, to not have that be the story with my kids, to not have some sort of food thing be the celebration or the problem solver every time. I think it's fine sometimes. My 14-year-old had her first really big heartbreak last week, and she I know it was so bad. It was so awful, God. Right? I mean, this is the beginning of many, but it was just so sad. And she spent a whole day just sort of numb and wouldn't eat and wouldn't do anything. And finally she looked up at me and she said, I think I want chocolate ice cream. And I said, yes, you do. Let's go get chocolate ice cream. But we don't do that every time something sad happens or difficult happens, because I don't want to build those habits. It's so unhealthy.
It is, but having the creating of a community around a table, and even a community of two, is a wonderful practice.
Totally agree. And that's why, we take it very seriously, sitting down as a family, for the meals. I only have my kids half the time, but it's really a big deal. And we sit down and we actually share, we go around the table and say what our favorite thing was from the day, and at least one thing we're grateful for. And even in this past week, which has just been really difficult for my oldest, she's able to go, oh, well, okay, I guess I'm grateful for this, right? So they can still tap into it.
It's so great. My biggest regret, okay, this is not my biggest regret, but a small regret I have is I did this huge kitchen renovation because I thought, and I can do these cooking experiences with women and I'll have this big island. And because I did that, and listen, my kitchen is freaking awesome, but because I did that, there really isn't room for also a table. So when we sit, we sit side by side.
And you can't face each other.
No, I mean, we kind of do. We sort of jury rig it a little bit, but there's something about a table. And we have a dining room table that we can sit at, but there's something about being in the kitchen that I like. There's something about the table that sort of creates closeness.
Yeah.
In a different way.
I agree. I totally agree. And I think having that closeness and that vulnerability and asking those questions and taking that time to connect is a really brave way to lead and to live in your life and to parent and to be a role model.
Yes. Speaking of bravery, there's something about in life, and I think as women specifically, we are groomed from the time that we are so small to crave this family, to like check off the boxes, to check off the house, to check off the husband or the wife, to check off the kids, to check off all those things. And when you uncheck a box that you literally spent, 30 years or 40 years trying to check, it's scary.
Super scary. I mean, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, that's how I ended up in my marriage. I married a really nice guy. I did. So I'm not trying to say that, but there wasn't for either of us really, I don't think, mad love, certainly not mad passion, but he was a really nice guy. And I needed to check off the boxes. I wanted to get married. I wanted to have kids. I certainly never would have thought of alternative ways of having children on my own. And at the time, I wasn't even out to myself. I don't even think I'd figured that out yet. In fact, I know I hadn't. So yeah, it was time to get married, time to have babies. And he was a really nice guy. I thought he's going to make a great dad. And off we went.
Yes. And he probably did make a great dad.
He is a great dad.
Yeah.
He is a great dad. And I feel very grateful for that every second of every day. Nobody is a perfect parent. Certainly he and I are not perfect parents, but he's a great dad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We co-parent very well.
Good. We do too most of the time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We're human. So, we're not robots.
Oh boy. And sometimes it feels very robotic, this grown-up thing, this adulthood thing, doesn't it?
It's hard. It's harder than, when people say, marriage is hard, and you think, oh, this must be what they mean. And then you find out that no, that actually wasn't what they meant.
There's a big combination of things. Lots of it's hard. Communicating well is hard. Being there for other people. You said being a good listener, I think is hard. So much of it, though, comes from life experience. There's this quote, meme, something going, I don't know what you would actually call it, going around social media that says, please raise your daughters to believe that not everyone has to like them. I'm paraphrasing. I may not be getting it right. And I totally agree, because we're not always going to be liked by everybody. But the idea that as a parent, we can just raise them to know that is ridiculous.
Yes.
You learn that. Life teaches you that. So I can say to my kids all day long, well, not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's your friend. I say to clients, not everybody's your client, right? But it doesn't mean it doesn't suck when somebody is hurtful or doesn't like you. You learn to not care that people don't like you by living.
Yes. Although I have to say that I don't think I'm at the place where I don't care. I want to not care.
I know.
And I get it. And I understand. And I don't like everybody.
Right. None of us do.
I can see the best for the most part in everybody. But it's hard when someone doesn't like you.
Oh, it's so hard. Well, that's my whole point. Is it ridiculous to think that we can just tell them that they should get used to it and it's going to be fine and that it's all going to work out great. We all want to be liked. But I think the challenge is learning that it's just not everyone's your person, and that's okay. They're not all going to get you, and you're not going to get them, and there's space for that, Yeah.
It's
just fine.
Yes.
Okay. So let's go back just a little back into your story. You've had sort of an interesting journey into adulthood and with writing, and tell us a little bit about that.
So I got into food. And I had this company called Eat, Live Well, and it was this boutique food and lifestyle company. And it's funny because I discovered that when I first became a chef, because I'm a recovering chef now, but when I first became a chef, I realized that I found myself one day getting screamed at because they really yell at you.
Sure.
And I was old. I wasn't old, but it wasn't my right out of high school. This was what I did. I was in my late 20s and I thought, okay, I don't need to get my father's approval from you.
My only exposure to that is, the Cooking Channel or HGTV.
Oh yeah.
Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah. Well, I worked in kitchens that were like that. It was terrible. But I ended up getting into the business of teaching people how to cook, how to create that love in their home.
Love that.
Yeah, it was really wonderful. But what I discovered was what I loved so much more was these conversations that would organically happen while we were cooking.
Yeah.
I liken it to back in the day, I'm old, so I grew up watching Little House on the Prairie.
You are not old.
Okay, I'm not
old because then you're making me old, and okay. I was obsessed with Little House on the Prairie.
Okay, well, thank you. But in my mind, I can envision the women coming together and doing something like preparing the food or whatever it was, and while the hands were busy, and they were taking care of whatever it was that they needed to take care of, they would have these conversations because there was an intimacy that happened in that space. And I loved that. And I discovered that I loved that piece so much more even than, like, yes, you can hire me to teach you how to make like your husband's favorite childhood meal so that you could surprise him on his birthday. But really creating a life that feels full and satisfying and joyful was the bigger result of that time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
If that makes sense.
And it's also as much about the effort and the connection there. I do remember this when I was first dating my ex-husband. His mother always made him a Boston cream pie. That was his favorite cake, and it's what he got for his birthday. And I wanted to make it for him. And I am a decent cook. I've not been to culinary school. I'm not a chef, but I can get by. And I'm a pretty decent baker. What I can't do is get a damn cake out of a cake pan. I can't do it. So somewhere there's a photo of this, and it's hilarious. I get this cake out and it falls apart, and I still try to ice it, and it's completely like sloping downwards. And it was, it was very endearing. He made fun of me, I don't know, probably for about 17 years. I'm pretty sure if the kids brought up a Boston cream pie right now, he would joke about it to this day. But I know that he was still touched by the fact that I put the effort in, and I didn't give up on it.
Yeah, there was a lot of love in that cake.
There was.
There was a lot of love
in my ass. I was like, I never ever want to do this again.
Yeah. It's so interesting. That reminds me, and I this might be going off track a little bit, but the other day, my daughter's a bad eater. And much to my dismay, like I had visions of...
What does that mean, a bad eater?
Okay, so I had visions of like when she was a baby, I was going to make her organic baby food and she was going to eat it. And that just never happened. And like...
I actually did that for the first one. I made all my own organic baby food for the first kid.
I just ended up breastfeeding her for like a very fucking long time. I don't know about the cursing thing. Sorry.
Oh, it's all fine.
Okay, good. Like a very, very long time. And, she just never, like there's some things that she likes, but she's difficult and she likes it one day and she doesn't like it the next. And she eats it at a friend's house, but she won't eat at home, or like whatever it is. Like there's something about the turning up the nose of this thing that I've created with so much love for her that feels painful to me.
Mm.
And the other day I was yelling at her because, I'm not a perfect mom. And I was like, and I'm not making lunch for you anymore. And then I realized that the making of the lunch was for me.
Yeah, it was about you, not her.
Yeah. And she's going to do whatever she's going to do. And this is life, right? Like we could put our heart on our sleeve or our heart on a plate or whatever it is, but it's for us. We can't control how someone is going to receive it. And
Absolutely.
that part almost doesn't matter.
I totally agree. I really do. I completely agree. And I have some picky eater kids too, but I remind myself, I don't like the same things every day. And I learn to like new things, and I stop liking things I used to like. And I may want to eat it at somebody's house or be willing to try something there that I don't want to put myself through at home. So I try to remember with my girls that they're just human. Like they can't always do the thing I think they should do, even though that would be so much easier.
Wouldn't that be so great? Oh, my dog is the same way. But like between the two of them, like I had this other dog. My other dog would like eat whatever it was and ask questions later. This dog, like you give it food that you've prepared and she looks at it and she smells it and then she looks at you and then she walks away. And you're like, you're a dog. Are you serious right now? Between the two of them, they're killing me.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So how did you decide to transform your business from a food-based business to what it is right now? And tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I think that really was, it really came out of the conversations that I had in the kitchen. And I said, okay, I want more of this. And I want to be able to serve more women, not just women that live 5 minutes.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So I've had clients in Africa. I've had clients all over the place, and they actually call me the joyologist because
I love that. The joyologist. Yeah. That's so great.
Yeah, it's so great. And I have a vision of what it would look like on a t-shirt, like the joy and then the little dot and then something's upside down. You know what I mean?
Do it. What's stopping you?
But it just came to me. My new business cards will say that.
Okay, I can't wait.
Yeah, I'll send you one.
Please do.
I'll send you one. When we're done, I'll get your address. But I your how life turns out is up to you. It is not about your circumstances. It is about your choices.
Absolutely.
And there's just something so powerful about that. And, when I left, or when I asked, my husband and I or my ex, soon to be ex, we had the same conversation, the same negative, this argument, we had it for, first it was 1 year, and then it was 2 years, and then it was 5 years, and then it was 10 years. And I'm like, I can't have this again. And then it was 11 years. And I was like, okay. I would be with clients, helping them create these amazing lives. And I was like, this is incongruous. I must have a joyful life of my own. And, there's that moment where you say, I think you should move out. And it floats there in the air like a cartoon bubble, and then you can't suck it back in once it's out.
No, you can't.
And then you have to reconnect with what your intention was when you said it. And I think you touched on this earlier, I don't want my daughter to think that that's what it was supposed to look like, or that was okay. I also don't want her to think that you just quit, but I want her to know that there's something more that's possible.
Yes. Yeah. And this conversation, I'm going to go ahead and say, you and I have this conversation from a place of privilege. So I just want to call out there. I have a lot of listeners who are really in touch with this. I understand that it's easier said than done, that you are in control of your destiny, that you make changes and that controls the outcome. That is all absolutely 100% true. But sometimes you're not in a situation where it makes it easy to realize that or to get out. And I feel very lucky. And Emily, I think that you probably do as well, that we're able to gain that perspective and have the support that we've had and the upbringing that we've had that allows us to recognize that and to take ownership over that.
Yes. I believe that you can't do it alone. It
Yes.
really takes it takes a village to raise a woman and hold her up and love her up.
Yes.
And love her where she is and where she isn't, and let her know that she's okay.
Absolutely. It takes a village to raise a person.
Yes.
I just think across the board, right? And we all need to be lifted up and cradled and supported in some really beautiful ways. It's not easy work, though. It takes a conscious collective effort to do that.
It really does. And you're never not the student. You're just never not the student.
I mean, you shouldn't ever not be the student. We should always be learning and growing. For me at least, when I stop learning and growing, I'm all done. What's left?
Right.
Yeah. I love it. So you're helping all of these women build more empowered, strong, fulfilling lives, and yours is not going the way that you want it to. So you finally work up the courage to tell your husband, I don't think we should be doing this anymore. How does that shift you?
Well, so when he first left, I was like, I actually nicknamed this phase that I went through emancipation elation. Where the sun was brighter, the air was fresher, everything was freer.
Yeah.
And it was like this incredible thing. But what followed not far behind was what I called open water, where I don't know if you ever saw this movie, but it's a true story about this couple that go on this scuba trip on vacation, and they get left behind by the boat.
Oh.
This is true.
Oops.
And they surface, and there's literally just the two of them.
Wow.
Yeah. And so there's that moment of everything was so great to holy shit, I am 100% untethered. Now what?
Yes. Yes. I know that feeling. And, I also always remind people that just because you know something is right and you're ready to push through, it doesn't mean that that thing is going to always be easy or that it's going to always feel good. Sometimes,
oh God, no.
Sometimes it just doesn't.
No, a lot of the time it just doesn't.
Yeah.
And then suddenly one day you catch yourself smiling for no reason.
Yeah.
Suddenly it's like, that you hear about the overnight success story. And that overnight success story was like 25 years in the
making. I know. I'm doing the 12 books in 12 months challenge this year. And the first book I read, the January book, and there's a YouTube video with the review. And there's a chapter on this book. It's called Live Big. And I talk about that. It takes, 25 years to be an overnight success. Just a little bit every day.
Yeah.
You do that little bit overnight every day.
Totally. And so that's what happens with life. It's like suddenly you're on the other side, but at some point you had your fingers like hooked in the fence and you were staring longingly at the other side, and you couldn't imagine how you were going to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I had that conversation with my girl when her little heart got broken. I said, I know that you feel like this is going to suck forever, and it is going to suck for a little while, but one day you'll go, oh, that's a little better today, and then one day eventually you'll wake up and go, that just doesn't bother me anymore. Mm-hmm. And you never know what it's going to happen. You're not prepared for it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
just one foot in front of the other every
time.
Yeah.
So what changed in you once you pushed through your divorce is almost final? How did your business, your interaction with your kids, your interaction with yourself, how did that shift for you?
Well, what happened was I realized that I had been waiting for someone to come and save me, or for something to come and save me. And
you came, because you're the only one that can save yourself.
And I showed up, but I wasn't a knight on a white horse. I was like a woman on a wild Mustang galloping across the plains. And I picked me up.
Yeah.
Because there's that moment where you realize that enough is enough, and it's do or die time. And I think it's like the realization that this is it. This is the rainy day.
Yeah.
This is life. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, yesterday, whatever, but this is it. And I feel like I just showed up for myself in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a big deal. There's, I know this because I have teenage daughters. There's an Ariana Grande song out called Thank You Next. Do you know this song? Have you ever heard of it?
No, but I'm going to write it down.
Yeah, I mean, she's a pretty talented young lady, I think. And the song is, I'm so grateful. She throws in the F word, which I happen to love. But I'm so grateful for my ex. And she talks about what she learned from each one. And then she said, I have a new relationship and this one's going to stick because she's with Ari, which is her, right?
Yes.
And I'm listening to myself and I'm supporting myself. And it's such a beautiful, empowering song. And it's just something I love that there's music like that out now for our young people to listen to, because it is the truth. And it's nice to hear that other people can get to the other side. It feels connective.
Yes. And one of the things that I talk about is or that I'm going to talk about now, is that like when someone else has something you want, or is somewhere you want, or you want that result, there's no reason to be envious. Instead you can get inspired, because if they can do it, you can do it. And
absolutely,
right? There's nothing
absolutely
that you can't have for yourself. And it might not be today, but if you keep your intention on whatever that thing is, it shows up. It's cool. Like I like to just like play little games with myself and like practice with like material things that I want.
Manifestation. It's no joke. It's there.
So fun. Isn't it so fun? It's like the thing shows up and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's the whole leap in the net will appear concept, but I'm a big fan of that. And I think staying present and practicing gratitude, all of that continues to help those things grow. But yeah, I am a master manifester. It's something that I very deeply believe in. It still shocks me though. I will say, I want this thing, so I'm going to manifest a way to make it happen. And then I do it. I'm like, well, hot damn, look at that. I did it.
Yes, it's kooky. It's kooky how it shows up.
It is a little bit.
Yeah, you have to keep your attention on opportunities that show up. Like it might not look the way that you thought it was going to look, but normally it's better.
I agree with that. Anytime, there have been 2 times in my life I was fired from a job. So if you've ever been fired from a job, you're not weird and there's nothing wrong with you.
Oh, I've been fired.
I know, right? Well, if you're listening out there, it happens. And it's been my experience both times that I landed someplace far better than I previously was. I will say this though, I'm an entrepreneur. I am made to be an entrepreneur. I always say I don't work well for other people. I work well with other people, but not for them. It just didn't work for me. But so Emily, now what sort of things are you doing? You're writing, you're an author. Tell us about your book.
Oh, I wrote this book called Rediscovering Joy. And
love the title.
Yeah. And I have to say, like in retrospect, I think I'd like to rewrite Rediscovering Joy, because parts of it are like magnificent, and parts of it I feel like I could flesh out more. Like I just finished reading this book by another author. I don't know if I should mention.
Yeah, go ahead. We love books around here.
Okay, so I in Goodwill, I stumbled upon "Girl, Wash Your Face" by Rachel Hollis.
I'm not a fan. Did you like it?
Okay, so there were parts of it that were really good. And then there were parts of it where I was like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I wasn't plugging the book. I was saying that like mine was the same. Like there were parts of it that it didn't have enough of my attention. It didn't have like, I sort of wanted to get it done and I got it done. But more of my writing is I write these daily sort of inspirational, they're like blog posts. Something I post them on Facebook, sometimes on Instagram, but really, I'm known for these cards that I pull. And I used to like pull cards every day and then post what they said.
Are they tarot cards or affirmation cards?
So one is called contemplation cards, and they're really cool. Mm-hmm. And then one is this little teeny tiny deck of cards, and I know where I got them, but I have no idea what they're called. But they'll say something. They'll like, I'll pull one right now. I'll tell you for now.
And then you have to send us a picture so we can
I will
put it on the show notes.
I will. But like I've been trying to find these for years, and I have no idea. I don't know if they still make them, but like this one is small and it's purple and it says, "Make room for all that is right now."
Yeah.
So it's just, but so I was known for pulling these cards, and then I discovered that I was writing my own cards. Like I have my own sort of view of the world that is uplifting. And I believe that. Yeah. And I believe that there is treasure everywhere you look. And sometimes it comes, down from source. Sometimes Well, I guess it's always from source in one way or another. But sometimes you
Absolutely.
literally trip over it on the street. It's magical, but I love words. And I love putting words together to say exactly the thing I want to say, which is why I'm being hard on myself about that book, because there's much of it that is really great. And then there's parts of it where it's not as it was meant to be done, I think.
My struggle with that book, listen, I'm all about pick yourself up and move on. But I do think that the process is important. I think it's okay to feel like shit for a little while. I think it's okay to think about all the different ways you want to create change. And I just don't like the idea that you just need to suck it up and get over it. It just pisses me off.
Oh, okay. I'm going to give you an example. So, okay. You know how when you eat a Hersheys Kiss, you could eat like 5,000 of them because they
so
just
small.
No, they're small, but they don't satisfy.
Yeah.
Because it's not delicious, like
yes.
rich, wonderful,
deep, dark chocolate.
Right.
Yeah.
And that book was more that.
Yeah.
As opposed to, something else that would be more, and like, God bless her, like literally, God bless her. I sort of stepped away now of like back into that book conversation. God bless her. And I feel like I'm looking for the experience of richness.
Yeah. The experience of richness. Yeah. Yes, me too. I like that. So how has your life been more rich since you took control and decided to get out of an unhealthy marriage?
Well, I have, there's like sort of that whole she shed movement.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the whole she house.
Nice.
Like I feel like more of myself. I've come home to who I am. For a while, I lost track of me, and I was I was so mad, I didn't even like me. Do you know what I mean? Like
I totally know what you mean.
I really like myself. I really like who I am. I like what I'm putting out there. I created this Facebook group called the Mom Revolution, which I think maybe was when we met. And it was about women finding their people. And I've created this community of like 700 women who were imperfection and badass meat. And you just get to show up like really in what's true for you, not like what it was supposed to look like Pinterest fail or Pinterest attempt, we'll say. Pinterest try.
Yeah, absolutely. There's quite a journey there. And I believe it is such a brave journey to go down, to go from what you think you should be or what you think success should look like to what is going to make your heart happy and what actually feels good and what's real and true and authentic for you. And then once you discover it, to live it.
Yes.
That's brave work.
And to actually talk about it, because like exposing that white warty underbelly is my favorite thing. And it's also the scariest thing, because there's like a real person in here, and
Absolutely.
You're a real person out there.
Absolutely.
I want to connect on that level. I want women to give themselves permission to explore that level, not, how are you? Good. Fine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, none of that. That's all so easy to see through these days. Asking real questions, listening to the answers all the time. Ask more questions and listen more often. Mm. So you mentioned gratitude earlier, and I'd love to know, do you have a gratitude practice?
I have a journal, and I am imperfect about writing stuff down.
Yeah. But journal's personal. How often you want to write in it or document is totally up to each of us.
Yes, yes, I agree. My gratitude practice is really like I had said just a few minutes ago about there is treasure everywhere I look. And when I walk, I take a bliss walk every day.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and it's what it is this 5.5 mile walk that I do every morning, regardless of the weather. But when I say it that way, it does not sound so appealing.
It doesn't sound quite 5.5 miles. That is no joke.
However, if I said to you, I have this spiritual practice of a bliss walk every morning where it's like me and my thoughts and source, then it sounds like, ooh, can I come?
Absolutely. Words matter. And the way you communicate something makes all the difference in the world. I love that you said that. And then I'm like, I'm like, that takes a long time to walk 5.5 miles.
It does, but I walk fast.
Okay.
I walk fast. And then I look for treasure along the way. And sometimes it's a thought that comes to me that I will share. Sometimes it's an actual found item. Like my house is probably 85 to 90% decorated in cool shit I found on the street.
That's awesome.
And like people come in like, who's your decorator? And I'm like, the universe.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
So when you find those little treasures, how do you celebrate that? That segue there. I would love to know how you celebrate all of your wins, big and small. But to me, I think finding that treasure feels like a little bit of a win. How do you celebrate?
It's totally a win. I share.
Yeah, that's a great one.
I tell people, I share my inspiration. I share the good thing that happened. I grew up at a time where it's quote unquote, it's not nice to talk about what's going well. It's not nice to quote unquote brag about, things in your life. But I struggled with this whole social media thing of people, really, I feel like I personally do believe that you could maybe take it a little bit too far. And sometimes I'm probably guilty of that, but I just try to share things that are wins, that are uplifting, and not to say, oh, look how great I am. But if I can have this, you can have this. If I can do this, you can do this. This is what I think about. Yeah. I had this my favorite thing came to me the other day, and I was walking, and it happened because, so part of my walk, I actually walk by the supermarket, and it opens at 6 a.m. So like on a school day, if we needed something, I could grab it before my daughter leaves the house. But the way that the store is set up is, and it's like IKEA. You know how you go to IKEA and you go for like, I don't know, pillows, and you leave with like 2 glasses, a dish towel, a framed piece of art, and like a fake plant,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like they make, like you have to walk through. And I was thinking about that the other day, and I realized that like in life and as a coach, like, you want the thing that you want, but the truth is it's not just you go and you grab it and then you exit. You have to walk through the whole store and maybe stop somewhere and be with the thing that takes your attention. And at the end of it, you'll get the thing that you came for, but so much more will result in the experience of walking in the first place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
I think this is fun. You and I could talk about a lot of different things. This interview could have gone a lot of different ways, but I love these tiny tidbits of connection and ways to sort of step into our lives joyfully. That's such a beautiful term. I love the entire concept of your business and your little daily. If anybody wants to get access to your little daily inspiration, affirmation things, how could they do that?
Well, I post them on Facebook.
Okay.
My Facebook page, I believe, is Live a Joyful Life.
All right. We'll link to it in the show notes.
And then I have a blog, which is on my website, www.liveajoyfullife.com. I believe every woman has the right to be happy, brave, fulfilled, and free. And it's up to us.
Can y'all hear her? She's banging on her desk there. She means it.
Oh, you heard me banging?
My editor, Andrew, is like, what is she banging? It's okay, Andrew. You can leave it in because she means it. Andrew. Emily is not messing around here. You have that right. I know. I got it. I loved it. I loved it. So as we come to the close of this show, I get to ask my favorite question. I love learning about these different organizations each week, and I so deeply believe in the power of giving back. What is your favorite charitable organization to support?
It's so funny. I have a friend and we were talking about charitable contributions, and she does the ACLU and she does all these things. I do the ASPCA, my public library, St. Jude's, the Food Bank of New Jersey, and there's a local soup kitchen. And I'm all about clothing and food and taking care of. So those are mine.
Well, I love all of those. We're going to pick one to be our charity of the week this week. So which one do you want to give the love to? We would love to do all of them, but we just can't do it.
Oh my gosh. I'd love to just pick St. Jude's, Kids with Cancer.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. St. Jude's is an amazing organization. So listeners, please give them a little love, whether that means you go and like their Facebook page or share them with somebody. If you've got a couple of bucks to throw as a donation, do that. If you're local and you want to serve as a volunteer, whatever works for you. But remember that we have to come together if we want to elevate our communities and our world at large. We are all in this together.
And support your local library. Whenever I move somewhere new, the first thing I do is get a library card. It's so meaningful to me.
Absolutely. We are big library fans. We actually have a little library in front as well.
Oh, you do?
Super passionate. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Did you make it yourself?
I didn't. I had a local carpenter make it, but my daughters painted it on the outside and it's beautiful. And then in the warm weather, we sit on the front porch and we get to watch people walk by, and some drive up specifically to seek out books in the library, and some drive up specifically to drop books, and people walk past all the time and we have conversations, and it's really a lovely community connector.
Oh my gosh, you should post a picture of that.
I haven't done it since last summer probably, but usually a couple of times a spring or summer I'll post something and talk about a new conversation I've had. So yeah, we definitely will. I love that.
Fantastic.
Emily, would you share your 3 words with us one last time?
Yes. Vulnerable, bold, and grateful.
Those are beautiful and strong and wonderful words. I feel like we fully vetted bold and grateful, but just give us a quick insight into why you chose the word vulnerable.
Because vulnerable is allowing yourself to be seen as you are and as you aren't. And I believe that it's getting down to the core of what's true.
Yeah.
And you can't move beyond where you are if you don't let yourself be seen.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I'm a big fan of vulnerability, all of the Brene Brown work. And
I love her.
It's powerful. It's a big deal. So thank you so much for that. I don't know about all of you listeners, but I just think this was a joyful interview. All of the different ways that you can invite joy into your life. Emily, I cannot thank you enough for spending a little bit of time with us and sharing your background and your experience and giving us a little extra jolt of inspiration and motivation for how we can seek joy out in our own lives. Thank you for being here with us.
I think you are divine. Thank you so much for having me. I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, everybody. So I'm just here to remind you that it helps you to connect with your gratitude and to celebrate your wins and live your life in a brave and courageous way in all ways. It doesn't have to be big things. Find little things. It's brave to sit at the table with your loved ones and share about your day and be vulnerable and authentic. You don't have to be afraid of bravery, right? It's not that you're trying to be fearless. You can feel the fear and do it anyway. If you want help developing a gratitude practice, remember that I have a gratitude journal. It's more than just a journal. There is information in there about my own transformation and how I came to gratitude, the science behind gratitude, different ways to practice it, and 180 unique prompts to help you connect with gratitude in a unique way. You can get that on my website, which is vickeryandco.com/store. You can find it on Amazon. Both places charge the same amount of money and you get free shipping. So head on over and grab your copy today and buy one for your friends. And be sure to check in with us next week. Each week we have an amazing new guest with a wonderful story to share. So this is Heather Vickery reminding you today and always to choose bravely. This episode is brought to you by Audible. Audible content includes an unmatched selection of audiobooks. Check it out for yourself and get your 30-day free trial, including one free audiobook. Simply visit audibletrial.com/thebravefiles and voila, free audiobooks. What could be better than that?
Thank you for listening to The Brave Files. Be sure to visit thebravefilespodcast.com to access the show notes and discover fantastic bonus content. Music composed and produced by Matt Lewis of Union Music, LLC.
Special thanks to our editor and audio mix expert, Andrew Olson. I am eternally grateful for all that he does to make each week sound so fantastic. You can hear more of Andrew's work at findandrewolson.com.